The hard lessons was that I got sued by my 8th franchisee on the 2nd year of being in franchising. And that taught me how to navigate my way around things and obviously make sure that, things were done properly.
What was the most beneficial thing for you when you were selling your 7 franchises? Was it just literally you as the founder being on the phone and doing it?
Well, I actually heavily was involved in every stage of franchising my business.
I can't get high quality. What would you advise them on that?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of them don't do what we call creating a customer avatar. What does your ideal franchisee look like and needs to have to be very, very highly qualified? So you really got to spend a lot of time looking at that mechanics. A lot of people think, I need to learn sales traits. No! And the reason being is because you don't need to sell yourself. You need that brand to sell itself. Give them everything they want to know about your brand. So when they come to you, they're selling themselves to you, not you selling your brand to them.
What's the sort of modern day flow now for a nurture?
Videos.
Videos, yeah.
Short little videos.
Okay, so welcome to the Franchise Marketer Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Kleber, and this is the podcast for people into franchising and marketing. And today, joining me is Susanna Hands, the franchise lady. So check out your website, which is susanahands.com, to learn more about Susana.com.au. So I stayed best. Been in franchising for many years, but I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us about your franchise experience before getting on in today's episode.
Love it. Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, my name's Susanna Hands. I'm best known as the franchise lady. And yes, you can follow me on my socials, and also you can look at what my experience is all about on susanahands.com.au. So I guess if I rewind 15 years ago, I actually started with my own franchise. I was a franchisee and I owned 4 of those. And I learned very quickly how I could burn myself out by doing so much so soon. From there, I then sold. So I learned how to exit and sell. And then I started my own business and I thought, let me do this on my own. Like, I don't need to do franchising. And so I started my own franchise. And then from there, I started my own business, which then I ended up franchising my own business, became a franchisor, learned all of that there. And I also learned how to build and sell businesses from there as well. And it was quite fun. So in my first year, I sold 7, which was not many people can achieve that when it's a startup brand, and it wasn't trading for very long. But I learned very hard lessons, and the hard lessons was that I got sued by my 8th franchisee on the 2nd year of being in franchising. And that taught me how to navigate my way around things and obviously make sure that, things were done properly. And so if I fast forward 15 years now, I've learned what not to do, and I've learned who to work with and who not to work with. And I also learned certain people are just in it for a quick buck in this industry. Yeah. And I sort of got to know all of that as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's a great introduction. And people can check out your website and learn more about you as well if they need some help. I was going to say as well, so I sort of get this sense that there's a lot of, I've been in franchise expos and all these things, a lot of the people there, I think there's some people now who believe any business can be franchised, and they sell a dream to people that they can franchise their business and make, and then get an exit in 20 years and make millions and stuff like that. And I sort of think that happens a lot. And I think there's a lot of businesses that get franchised that shouldn't be. So if someone's looking to franchise their business, from your experience, what should they be asking themselves, and what should they actually know about doing it?
First and foremost, they need to be training for quite some time to make sure that the business model stacks up, you're making money. Can the business work without you being physically in there doing the hard yakkers? Is it serving, is it producing, or is it doing the actual product itself? If the answer is yes and you can duplicate, can you teach somebody? And how hard is it? If it's too niche, then it's probably going to be a very hard sell. You're finding really like kind of a needle in the haystack when it comes to franchisees. So not everyone's ready to franchise. And the other thing I would say to you is you might have a great idea and it might be great franchising, but once you get into franchising, it's too far in to then get yourself out, and you've spent quite a lot of money.
Yep.
So please do the homework. Please don't just go to any of those people that just go, I'll charge you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and I'll franchise your business. Please do your homework. Do look at every single area of your business before you go down that path.
So a lot of the people that I see who do that, plus they want to do the recruitment, plus they want to do the marketing. It's like a full suite, and they lock them into this one sort of business. And then the franchisor gets frustrated when they're not growing or not doing it's not going the way they think it should be. What would you sort of say about that then in terms of the end-to-end sort of thing? Because there's obviously people who will do that, but you know yourself from working it for so long, like what would you sort of advise around that?
stick to your lane.
Lane.
Not everybody's an expert in everything. And I can honestly say I'm not the expert of everything or franchise things. So I work with a lot of experts that do a lot of niche things. So my specialty is franchise sales. That's my niche. But if I was to, I also help people to franchise their business, but I don't do it for them. I actually guide them to understand, are you ready to franchise first before you go down that path? So those companies, and I know so many of them because I refer a lot of business their way, what they tend to do is they start in one section, like maybe it's a lead generation company. And then they go, wow, I can see that, I can generate a whole bunch of leads. And let's talk about the leads in a minute. But they say, I can generate a lot of leads. They then see, oh, wow, that company's selling them. So guess what? They then become the franchise sellers and they become the developers. And then they also then say, hey, I can do this and I can do that. And they become like the one-stop shop of everything franchising. And I tell you now, because I've worked with so many of them and not mentioning names, but they just need to stick to their own lanes and give everybody who knows their expertise to do that part. And if everyone does their part, a franchisor can make better decisions around their business than having one person do everything for them and then they've been disappointed.
But I think as a franchisor, it's a bit tempting though, right? I only have to deal with one provider to do all this, right? And I think that's a lot of people like, that's the easiest path for me to do it. But I think, as you said, you need to have specialists in your business and you have advisors who advise you different things. But I think, franchisors, they sometimes go the easy option when they do that as opposed to getting industry experts to do various sections of it.
And I guess it's the reason being is because everyone charges what we call a monthly retainer.
Yeah.
So there's a monthly retainer to have a person to do lead generation for you. There's a monthly retainer to have a franchise development or recruitment person doing that part for them. And then everyone wants a slice of the commissions. So there's a success fee for that one lead that I generate for you to then get sold. That company gets a commission and then the franchise developer gets a commission for the sale. So you're diluting all your kind of expenses along the way. So that's why it's attractive for most franchisors to go to the one place to do one retainer, get all the services done. But what they don't realize is that you may be paying less retainer to have one person do everything, but you're not getting the best outcomes from that one company doing everything for you.
And you did your sales though, which I think is crucial. I don't know why people outsource the sales, especially when they're starting up, because I think you get so much good insights from prospects and, you get a lot of feedback from, in regards to questions, which you can then use to create content, all this sort of stuff. And I think a lot of franchisors outsource all that and they miss all that. They just want someone to come to the signing stage and then we'll talk to you. But there's all this stuff in between they've got no idea about. So you did your own sales back in the day with a startup brand. So you did 7, within the first year as a startup brand, which is impressive. So talk about that, because obviously you would have went through the same thing, calling people that don't answer and all that sort of stuff. And maybe, people aren't qualified, but just want to talk about that process and why that was important.
It was important because people wanted to speak to the person who actually built the brand. And it's that they buy the person behind the brand. So it was me who was influencing me. They wanted to join who I was as an owner and as a founder of the company. So I guess they didn't feel like it was diluted along the stages and along the way. Now, once you're big enough, yes, put people in place to have those initial calls, to do the first stages, to do the closings. But when you're starting out, you want to learn the whole process and you want to be the captain of your own ship.
Absolutely. And you mentioned leads as well. So we'll talk about the leads aspect, what you were saying before about generating leads.
Yeah, the biggest thing is every company that I've ever worked with that can generate leads, and they do a great job. But what they do is they generate a shitload of time wasters. And the time wasters is what frustrates a lot of the franchisors who are calling these people and they're asking questions like, how much is your franchise? What do you actually do? Oh, is that the one that I actually inquired about? Oh, I inquired about 5 different franchises and you're just one of that 5. So really, I asked the question, did they inquire in your brand, for your brand, to learn more about you and your brand? Or did they just inquire thinking, I want a franchise, I don't know which one, but I'm just going to put my lead generation in, and it gets regurgitated through all brands. And that's what I've been seeing over the years of one person, that name, I've seen it in multiple franchise brands inquiring. Like that, right? I pay a retainer to get lead generated and I get the one person inquiring about 5 different brands that I'm looking after to sell their franchises. How's that possible? So I always, that's great.
Well, I think if you're a franchise brand and starting out, you need to go content first, then you worry about ads. If you don't have a substantial library of video content and you're expecting brokers to do that or franchise people to do that for you, I think you're behind the game now. You've got to front load the trust as opposed to have all that stuff behind the scenes. But do you want to talk about then the franchise founders? So if you're really heavily involved with doing that from the start, I think a lot aren't. And I think that's catching a lot of people out.
Yeah.
So what would you sort of say to founders? Like, what was the most beneficial thing for you when you were selling your 7 franchises? Was it just literally you as the founder being on the phone and doing it? That just sort of gave that way more, let's say, oh, I didn't know you're the actual founder and owner, or what was it about you being involved heavily in the process?
Well, I actually heavily was involved in every stage of franchising my business, from legal documentation creation, the commercial terms, to understanding the process of the sale part, everything. I learned everything. And the good thing was that when someone came to me and asked me questions around my legal documentation, I could answer that because I put those commercial terms together. I knew exactly what I was doing. Now, when you disperse that and you get some company to do every part for you, building your SOPs, your manuals, your legal documentation just gets created and it's a simple template. You're not understanding exactly what you're selling. So when you don't understand what you're selling, how are you possibly going to build that trust with that person to come in and say, give me all this money, I'm going to give you this brand that I've built, so I sweat equities in here and I want you to run it. And they then realize that you don't even know what you're selling. So how am I going to trust you? So that was the key for me. I knew everything about everything in my own business, and that's what got me, I guess, into trouble, and I also got myself out of trouble. So it was a good journey.
I think what you said about the documentation would be very common, where people pay all this money for legal docs and they probably don't understand it, and they're just relying on what they're telling them and putting stuff that lawyers are telling them into their agreements, which they might not even know or agree with. So I think that's a big issue as well.
Yeah, because there's so much commercial terms in the agreement that you can customize and make it kind of yours. And some franchisors, and I was a bit like that, I wanted to break a little bit of the common denominators, what you see in most franchise agreements. And I wanted to make it specific to what suited my franchise in that sense. And you had to explain, what does that mean? So things like, they go to a franchise lawyer and they go, hey, here's a 30 questions of go and change that franchise agreement. Go back and tell him I want to change this.
Yep.
They'd come back and they'll say, hey, I don't want my store to be open from 9 to 5. I want it to be open from 1 to 2 or something like that, something stupid. And I would say to them, why would your lawyer ask you to change that? Like, that's just irrelevant to get you into business. So yeah, and I just knew how to navigate my way around kind of the questions and the answers that I was getting from external people trying to stop the sale going ahead.
Yeah, we do around 1,200 contracts a year, and ours are automated. We have that occasionally where lawyers try and do that, and we haven't changed it once. Our contract was actually written by Jim pretty much himself, and he couldn't find lawyers to do it the way. I think ours is like 52 pages, and it's really simple language. But I think that's a really important part, what you said, and actually knowing your agreement when people ask you about it, you don't know about it. It just doesn't give you any confidence to the prospect at all.
It doesn't, because you don't even know what the hell you're selling, let alone how you're supposed to, comfortably and confidently onboard someone into your system if you don't know it yourself when you're selling it. So that's the key when you're selling it. And if you do outsource it, because let's face it, not every franchisor likes the sales process. But one of the things that I've always learned is you don't have to be a gun of a salesperson to sell your franchise. That's the key. A lot of people think I need to learn sales traits. No, I would never buy off somebody that sells me like a car salesperson. I would never buy off that person. And the reason being is because you don't need to sell yourself. You need that brand to sell itself. And that comes into the marketing, and you're an expert in that part. So, it's like, give them everything they want to know about your brand. So when they come to you, they're selling themselves to you, not you selling your brand to them. And that's the key there.
Also, and now actually the person they're speaking to generally is a successful business person who's got himself in a position to franchise, right? So they're obviously calling you because they want to run a business. So you can just talk as a business owner and your story and how you developed it and why you're franchising and stuff. And it's not selling at all, right? It's probably the selling by not selling approach. And I think that's the key. And I agree with you. A lot of franchisors outsource because I don't think they're good salesmen, but I think their story is the selling tool and what their knowledge is the selling tool. And they need to, that's all they need to share on the call.
Spot on.
Let's talk about your nurture then, Susanna. So nurture is always a thing. People, like, for me, in franchising, what annoys me is people going, AI qualification, AI this, AI that, and they've got no video content. It's like, all right, well, you can have all the AI you want, but you've got nothing online about your brand. But nurturing, so when you did that with your 7 sales in that time, was it like a weekly nurture you had in place? Did you have SMSs set up? What was the nurture you did? And maybe now, what would be a nurture sequence you recommend for inquirers?
So when I franchised, it was many, many, many years ago. So I don't want to show my age, but it was over 10 years. And what we had back then and what we have now is completely different. So back then I had to do everything manually. So it was phone calls. It was really hardcore phone calls, make sure that they're happy. Every step of the way I was ringing saying, finding out their challenges at the beginning and objection handling right at the beginning, because I didn't want to get to the 11th hour and they had threw me with everything. So really articulating that and then obviously guiding them through the stages. And I did that manually. These days, we've got really good CRM systems, infrastructure, recordings, AI. We've got all sorts of stuff that can eliminate all of that. But what you can't eliminate is the human touch that you need to do within your own process to be able to genuinely sell people on your brand without sounding robotic or without sounding like you're scripted. But the process has got to be the same. And we built a sales process that whether you're selling a gyms or you're selling a food brand, the process is exactly the same. You're just selling different product and service kind of thing. So It's been modified a lot over the years.
What's an ideal process then for a franchisor? Should it be a weekly, lead comes in, obviously qualify them if they're qualified, and then, you go into a certain email drip and then you're doing SMS, or what's the sort of modern day sort of flow now for a nurture?
Videos.
Videos, yeah.
Short little videos, you've got a little burning issue, are you, something along the lines of, are you finding the franchise fee too high? And then sort of giving them that kind of answer. So it's whatever they have thinking, I want to speak to my partner. Well, no, why do you need to speak to your partner? Bring your partner along. Let's have that conversation. So anything that's an excuse for them to sort of say, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I don't know if I can be the great fit for you. Articulate that in a little short video. Are you going to tell me you got to speak to your partner and you got to think about it for a week? Then you're not ready for us. And all those little kind of excuses, I put little videos in terms and then nurture that into the sequence. So I just know that if they speak to me, the next thing they're going to say to me is, I need to go and speak to my partner and think about it for a week and I'll get back to you in about a week's time. I know that person's not going to come back. Those excuses are getting told too many times. So I just know the little tweaks there that we can sort of eliminate when it comes to nurturing those emails.
Yeah, I have husband and wife podcast deliberately for that. So we have a mowing husband and wife talk about it. And I literally make sure the wife says, you didn't buy yourself a second job, did you? No, so they can do all in the app and stuff. And that's exactly for that reason. So yes, I agree with that for sure. And you should have a video library in the email because I think that's a main thing. What about anything else in the nurture? So you're doing obviously emails with short form video to answer common questions. Do you do SMS? Is there anything else you're doing with as well with that?
I think most people think I'll give you a call and I'll leave you a voice message. I don't know about you, but I don't listen to my voice messages on the best of days. And it comes up as a script. So you're sort of getting little random words in there that doesn't make no sense. So SMS is massive now. So if I get an SMS, I can look at the SMS anywhere. So if I'm looking at a franchise and I get an SMS, hey, we haven't heard from you, but you inquired about this. Is it something? Prompting them. And I guess it's like the hit until you jab until you actually get. And there's 8 points of that. It used to be 3. It's now gone to 11. It's huge now. So what all those little touch points, but SMS is a good little one, constantly sending them emails. People don't like to read. Anyone like me? ADHD. I don't like to read long format emails. I want short, sharp, quite quick stuff. So yeah, that's where the journey's gone to now.
And with the SMSs, are you doing messages just to get a reply, or you want them to watch a bit of content and have a link in it?
A bit of both. So it's like, where are they up to in the process? So we've built stages in our CRM system, and at every point I know where the trigger points is and where the challenges sit. And when I know that that's the challenge, then the SMS will go out because I know exactly where they're at that point and what they're thinking. It's probably funding. It's probably their wife or their husband stopping them to progress. It's I'm scared, or I don't want to leave my corporate job. So all those little nuggets that I know that's what's stopping them moving to the next step, and the next step is what I then SMS them on. Yeah. Hey, is that little brain in the back of your head saying to you, don't leave your corporate job, you're earning X amount of money, you can't start a new business? So we sort of trigger on those points.
Yeah, nice. And I think, front loading that and putting the effort into building a CRM system with that is really, really important. I think people do it a year or two later and after they don't get with their success. And then if you do it from the start, you're at least going to make use or give yourself a proper chance with the leads you're actually bringing in than having 2 years of not getting much success and you're trying to then build it and then go back to the leads and it's sort of wasting money. I reckon you do that.
Spot on. But you need an expert to do that part.
Yeah.
So
you can't do it yourself as a franchisor.
Nah. Franchisors know their brand, their business, but they don't know how to build a CRM system. They don't know how to build the nurturing system. They don't know how to sell it. And especially in franchising, especially in Australia and in some other countries, there's some compliance parts in the process you need to know. If you don't work with the expert of that part, and you don't work with the expert of a marketer, and you don't work with an expert that gets you all of these little things built solid at the beginning, you're going to be selling it very hard. And you then go to me, why can't I sell my franchise? Well, because you haven't built it properly. You probably paid one person to do everything, but that one person is not the expert in those areas.
Absolutely. And I think franchisors are also addicted to leads. So they want, and the agencies want to give them 30, 40 leads a month, but like maybe 2 good quality, right? So I think the addiction to leads as well, they need to reframe that and obviously, get over the addiction to leads they have, because it doesn't help them. It might look good numbers-wise at meetings and things like that, but it's not going to help them ultimately with sales.
Good point that I always raise to a lot of my franchisors. It's not about the number of leads, it's about the quality of leads.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lead companies that I've worked with, they just generate leads because you know what? They're getting paid a retainer every month. So they want to generate 100, 200, 300 leads. But when I get in there and I look at the leads, I'm like, did you ask them how much liquid cash they had? They don't even have $10,000 to their name. Why the hell is that person in my pipeline? So really targeting your audience that is for you is key as well.
Common question. So that I want high quality leads. I want better leads, right? Everyone says that. Every franchisor says that. I think in gyms, what we've done is we've been able to get high quality leads because we have got this content machine. We've probably got 3,000 YouTube videos and whatever. So that's our quality sort of stuff we do there. But high quality leads, franchisor will go, I can't get high quality leads. I need to get more high quality leads. What would you advise them on that?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of them don't do what we call creating a customer avatar. What does your ideal franchisee look like and needs to have to be very, very highly qualified for you? And it's very different to you as a gym's owner or to another brand. So you really got to spend a lot of time looking at that mechanics. And then your marketing collateral build has to be speaking to those audience, those people. And then you've got to then market to those people that are going to have the money that you need them to have to be able to even be considered. They need to have the skill set and all the bits and bops that you need them to have. That's what I would say is a qualified lead, not somebody that just has money in a wallet and a pulse.
Where would you advertise them? So advertising is obviously a big one. In gyms, we edit a lot on Meta. We advertise a lot on Meta because ours aren't exactly, you don't need more than $100,000. We can reach a lot of people, plant the seed, they go check out the podcast, YouTube, and away they go. But, $400,000, $300,000 sort of QSR type site-based places. Obviously, some of them will use meta ads and things like that. But what else from an advertising point of view to get your ads into that ideal avatar's face or so they know about you?
The other little brands are in areas that you would never know. So social media is huge. So digital platforms is where you want to be. And I guess the other thing is personal branding. So if I was the owner of that franchise brand, personal branding is where, and I will follow you as a person, and then I'll relate you back to what kind of business you're running. So personal branding is a must in building that business. So I couldn't answer that for you because I've actually worked with so many different channels, but social media, Facebook, where does your people sit at? So if I'm in my mid-40s, I'm 44, where I usually sit is Facebook, LinkedIn is my biggest platform. That's just because my generation is there. But I know my daughter who's 20 sits in TikTok and stuff like that. So if my daughter who's 20 and if that's your target audience, go to TikTok, go to those platforms because that's where your target audience is sitting. Instagram, all those types of
TikTok's getting a bit older now. You got a lot of 35 plus on TikTok now, basically.
I know. My son tells me I'm old.
A lot of their reports, and we obviously go really hard on TikTok. We have a lot of people coming in from TikTok now, which has been good. But before I go on, I will say I like the expo, to be honest, from the content point of view. I reckon if you're a brand and you want to do it purely for content, film as much stuff as you can. Ask people from the booth about franchising stuff. I think it's value for that because you have that setting and stuff. And I think we normally go to the expo if Jim does a talk and we offer it for free. But I think I don't want to can on expos. So I know they put a lot of work in it. I know they're trying their best with it. But I do think from a content point of view, if you look at it from that way, it's a really good option just from that point of view.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be cutting people out from doing it because I did it for 10 years straight and I was one of those exhibitors out there and I sold many franchises from the expo. So I want to state that record that straight that you can get really good value out of it and you want to be branded there as well. But what I'm saying is don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah,
so don't just
line to be a sales thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't just do that because that can be very expensive in your marketing budget, but you really need to have other stuff as well going on in the background. Personal branding is your big one too.
I think the way to think about it for people is where's the most amount of eyes and where's the attention the cheapest? Attention is the cheapest on social media. You obviously can pay in there, but you can do organic social media. Last week's guest, Darcy Ellis, who's founder of Hit Fit Gyms, he's got 7 franchises now. He said that all of his recruitment's coming via his personal brand Instagram account. Okay? So you think about it, he's not even paying for any amplification really. He's doing some Facebook ads and stuff, but he's doing personal brand content on his account, does a great job of it, and he's getting leads via that. Doesn't have to pay to an outsourced agency or retainers here and that. All he's doing is taking him the time to put some effort into doing the content. So what would you say then to a franchisor who goes, right, I need a personal brand. How do I build it? I've got my ideas in it, but I want to hear yours about how would a franchisor build a personal brand? Because a lot of them might go, I don't want to be on camera. I don't know what to say. I'm no good talking with scripts or whatever it is. So what would you sort of advise them about that?
Well, I built my brand for the last 2 years. That's all I've been doing is building my personal brand. I got it myself involved with people that I connect with people that have got more money or businesses and have a lot more kind of stories to tell than what I would. And just aligning yourself with different people, taking photos with, like either celebrities or other franchisors or people that have exited their businesses. That's building credibility for you as a person. That's a branding thing. If that person can be seen with that particular person, then you must be somebody to be able to go and socialize in those areas. So personal branding is massive. Short videos, I was one of those and I'm still one of those. I hate doing little videos. I think my face looks ridiculous in most of those videos, but just stepping out of that comfort zone and just people need to see that you're genuine, you're a human, you want genuine people to join you and you attract that kind of people as well. So if you're standoffish, you don't want to be on camera, you don't want to be out there, would I want to join your business? Because I want to follow the leader and people follow what they see. And so if I see you on social and you're out there, you're talking, you're telling me what your brand's all about, there's a bit of a hype and then you got the fear of missing out. So yeah, that's me.
I think it's the modern way to do it. I think the brands who don't do this and they keep doing the same, going to the same well to fish, they're going to be disappointed in 5-10 years. I think the way you're doing it now is, social first. And I think it's not franchisors, if you're not comfortable on camera, I think doing what we're doing now as a podcast is a really easy way to get content. You're not thinking about it. It can be repurposed into a whole bunch of different assets. You can outsource that to someone as well. If a franchisor is not confident, you can engage personal brand agencies to help you. Or you can do it yourself with an internal team where you literally do 1 hour of content a week or 1 hour of content a month even, gets repurposed into a whole bunch of different content and then distributed by your marketing manager who's probably already doing your B2C sort of stuff as well, which is what we do at Jim's basically. Jim, that's how I do it. I film a lot of batch content with him, a lot of Q&A stuff. I do it on my own time. It's not as hard as what people might think as well. You don't need to pay a fortune to it. But I think the best way to start for a lot of people should just be a podcast because you can do a lot of content. You're talking on to experts as well who will then obviously promote it to their audience and it's more natural. But if you're a bit more confident, doing short form stuff directly to camera and a bit more long form sort of stuff on YouTube is probably a really good place as well. But I think podcast is probably the best place to start. And I think all franchise brands should have a podcast. I think it's a no-brainer.
I totally agree. And you got little snippets of what people want to know. And it's amazing what you then work out. I need to know more about that. And they start listening and listening and listening. You create good content, then they go, you know your stuff. I'm going to join your brand. Yeah. So that's usually what it ends up to be.
And what happens is it gets indexed in the search results, right? So when people go, who is this guy or what is this business about? We'll find that Google will start ranking your short form videos in the SERP in AI mode. Now, not many people use AI mode, but it's going to get more up. If you do AI mode and a bit of a search, now you see YouTube videos on the right or you see shorts on the right, or podcast appearances on the right for that as well. So it's becoming really important to establishing a digital footprint. So I think it's a must now. But I think it's cheaper overall. Like Darcy Ellis, for example, I don't know how much he's paid to acquire those franchisees, but I don't think it's a hell of a lot if he's doing it inbound via his personal brand and Instagram where he's getting them. So if you want to save yourself a lot of money, franchisors, I think that's somewhere you can go and save a lot of money if you do it.
Spot on. And you actually then bring on the right people into your business that then trickles into, I want to work with this person. They're in for 10 years, whatever the agreement arrangement is. But that's a big journey for that person to be on board. And if you don't get to connect them with them at the beginning and you're letting your whole external teams do it, they usually just have commission breath. And when they have commission breath, they're bringing anyone and everyone because they just want their commissions. And that's not what people want when it comes to joining a franchise. That's what gives us a bad name in the industry as well. So, yeah, I think encourage more franchisors to do it themselves, but be guided by the right people to help you achieve and get the results. That's what I say. Don't need to do it for them. You've got to just guide them, teach them, learn it very well. And then when you've got the system down pat, then you can implement sort of like your bigger brands are implementing, internal people to do the sales, but they represent the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And founders and franchisors, there's a lot of AI stuff now that you can do a lot of this stuff with as well. So Opus Clip, for example, is a great AI video tool, which this will go into after I do this, and then there'll be 40 reels that I can use if I want. So it's actually a lot easier now to do this sort of stuff than what it was 2 years ago, where you probably have to pay a bit of money to get all this stuff done. Now you pay a subscription for a month and you can get 40 videos out of Opus Clip and it costs you $20. So it's a lot cheaper now and easier for franchisors to do it.
You know what? I'm sure you can share a lot of that stuff with me because I'd love to learn as well. So bring it on. But yeah, I agree. Most franchisors sit in their own little cocoon trying to manage their franchise and try to evolve their franchise that they forget that there's so much outside of it. And that's when you're looking at franchising, there's a lot more to learning than just being a franchise brand. And if you know exactly what you're getting into before you franchise, and you know the cost and the heartaches it can be if you don't do it properly from the beginning, that's where a lot of people get caught out as well. So learning exactly what you're getting into before you get into it.
Okay, I'll ask you this, Susanna. Then why do people keep going to the same well then? Because there's the same well, there's a few areas that everyone seems to go to. When I first started, the probably reason why I was successful with this is because I had no idea about that sort of stuff, right? So I'm going completely outside of it. I had no idea about it. So why do brands keep going to the same wells when they probably know this stuff and they're probably nodding their head going, yes, but they keep wanting to do it? It's because they want to have that constant sort of leads they can report on to management. Yeah. What is it exactly?
I guess they're making a lot of noise and they're in the right channels that bangs on. So, they're probably in those platforms that all franchisors go to and think that they're getting seen through that. So I feel like it's a bit of a FOMO. If I don't go to the expo, then people are going to think I'm not that brand that is well known in that particular industry, right? Because you're not part of that body or that system or whatever. But what they don't realize is that you can make more noise by doing it yourself and much cheaper. But it is a lot of work when they don't know that there's platforms that can help them out. So it's a bit of education, I think it is. It really needs a lot more like you and myself to sort of say, hey guys, just step out of the comfort zone. Don't do what everyone else is doing and make something a little bit more different. And I don't think anyone likes to be different, especially in franchising. It's been very traditional for a long time. And what Jim's is doing and what other brands are doing is very different and outside of the norm. We're not part of memberships with the organizations, and we don't turn up. Well, most of them don't turn up to those types of things. But if you don't, they think that people don't know that you exist.
Well, you can build your own audience now, Susan. That's the thing. You can build your own. Darcy, I'll use him again. You build his own audience on Instagram, right? So he's got his buyers from that, build his own audience, and he gets far more reach on that than anything else he probably could do. So I think that's the thing now. You can actually build and own your own audience. So I think that's what people need to realize now. You don't need to leverage of other people's audiences or perceived audiences when you can do it yourself if you do it the right way. But it just takes a bit of hard work to commit to consistent content creation and amplification of stuff that works, and you can build your own thing. Well, the evidence is there. There's brands in the US who have started up literally from a YouTube channel, franchise brands. No, they don't do any ads or anything like that. And they've grown to 200 locations in like 6 years. A guy called Mike Anderson from Augusta Lawn Care, just doing YouTube. Right? So nothing else, just doing YouTube. So I think you've got the ability now to build an audience to attract the right franchisees, and then you're going to bring a lot of people who align with your values in via your own channels. But the thing is, you've got to commit to it and give it a crack and stay consistent for 6 to 12 months. But I was going to say as well, with franchise brands, you've obviously helped a lot of brands in your time. What are the better ones doing? Like, what do the best franchisors do? What are the best things that you've seen within systems?
The best ones are doing really, really awesome, like videoing, just silly videos that you just think, oh my God, did you really do that? But it really attracts the audience. So doing videos, pretty much stating what people want to know about the brand before they come to speaking to a franchise development person or recruiter. And thirdly, just give them all the information they want. Don't have secrets around it. Like, Why do people not want to tell others what your franchise fee is or what your turnkey solution investment is, and they keep it so secret? Why don't you want to tell people what the royalty is? Like, let them know, because once you get them to know all of that, they're not coming and asking you the same repetitive question. Although they know that, and they know that before they come to you. So marketing before they come and speak to somebody, and actually understanding the brand, its investment, what they get for their investment, and are they a right fit, because they self-assess themselves, and then they speak to somebody. That's the key.
I think the Americans do really well. They're very upfront with their fees and everything on their website up front. Whereas the Australian websites look at recruitment pages and it's very, very short. And NDAs are required before anything gets told and all these sorts of things as well. So what do you think about the whole NDA things? I think there's still a lot of businesses who don't tell anything before an NDA is signed, and then you get a list of franchisees to speak to, and I think that's just backwards in 2026.
Oh, totally backwards. An NDA doesn't mean nothing. I could rip it up and I could give you all my information. And, what am I going to do with it? Take you to court for that? Really? If you're too scared to tell people what you do and how you do it and send your franchise agreements, then would I want to join your network? Look, there is a bit of a selling component to it. Place a deposit and we'll send you franchise documentations. Or, in the US, you can't even do that. You've got to send them the documentations, wait 14 days and then get the deposit. You can't actually be doing
We do that with gyms. So I find it, when I heard that from people that in Australia, they don't give the disclosure document, the list of names before they get a deposit. I found it very odd because I thought, wouldn't you want people to speak to your franchisees? And I've heard the argument that they don't do it because they don't sales. Sometimes it's salespeople trying to get onto franchisees and that's how they do it. But I don't know why we would not do that up front.
Well, it could be a bit of a sales journey, like put a deposit down and we'll send you documentations and do your homework and due diligence.
So that list of franchisees, when would you put that up to someone?
Well, why wouldn't you Google it and they can see all the franchise details there? So, usually you go on a website, you can see how many, gyms and your owners and your phone numbers. Just give them a call. Just giving them access to where they can find the information is fantastic. These days, as of, I think, the last few months, they've changed it in the disclosure documents. They can actually choose that to only disclose franchisees in that state, as opposed to writing the entire list of all the franchisees in the whole country.
Yeah.
So you're now limiting the information you're providing in a disclosure document anyway. So, but if you have all their details on a website, there's nothing stopping people to go on a website and just give them a call. Just don't be scared to ring people up and get them to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly stories. Because myself selling franchises, I want some franchisees to challenge, and have those conversations, say, you know what, it was challenging when I started this business. And what did I do to overcome that? Because you know what, if everything sounds too pre-recorded, too kind of scripted, you as a person that's buying into the brand are going to ask yourself, there's something fishy about this. There's got to be some bad stories around here, right? But stating the obvious beforehand. So, if I know that one franchisee, because let's face it, not every franchisee is going to be happy in any model. I've worked with so many of them and I can tell you now, there's always about 5 or 10% of franchisees that always will have something that, not nice to say about that brand. But stating the obvious, hey, you might speak to one franchisee that might tell you that this is a bit of a challenge for them, or they're going to hone in on this particular issue, problem, or whatever. So you're not sort of giving them something shocking to listen to when they do get that.
I think it adds a bit more authenticity to it though, because we've got franchise prospects who'll call 20 guys and 18 might say good things and 2 might say bad things and they still come into training. I've heard that story from a few of them as well, right? So I think it adds a bit more authenticity to the actual experience that, not everyone, you've got to make it work and do your part too. And, it's not all, there are some challenges sometimes, right? But I was going to say as well, you mentioned before objections at the start, right? So so preloaded franchise or franchisor starts a brand. You mentioned some commenting objections about finance, capital and stuff like that. What type of content or what should they have for the common objections that you see to make it easier for a sales process for themselves or anyone they're outsourcing it to?
One of the biggest things that I did was the common question I get thrown at is, I've got to think about it. Because when they come to meet with you and they want to speak about the brand, they usually is only one person. They don't bring the partner. So Objection-handling, he's creating a little short video. Hey, if you're not the only person that's going to make the decision in your family, bring your partner along and let's have that conversation together. So you're preempting what that little kind of excuse they're going to give you, because you preempted a little short video to say, bring your partner along, because I'm not going to take that as an excuse. The second part is, I don't know if I can get funding. Well, one of the things that I do at the beginning is, if you're looking into this business, this is what the investment is. Have you found out if you can get funding or you've got the ability to fund this whole business as a whole? If not, stop now, go and get funding or go and see if you can get that. So I'm actually doing a lot of little short videos for those particular brands to say, these are the challenges I'm getting, and I will then tell them to go and do that before they come and start the process of the sales process.
And anything else, like, do you get stuff about training or confidence if they can actually do it? Do you get stuff around that from people?
Yeah, look, a big question is, I don't have the qualifications. Am I going to be able to learn how to do X, Y, Z? Well, let me tell you, people, I actually started my photography business. I had no idea how to hold a camera, let alone take photos of babies when I first started my franchise. Did that stop me? It probably gave me a little bit of, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? But I asked questions. So if I know that that's going to be my biggest challenge, then sort of state the obvious. You might say something along the lines of, you've never probably held a camera. You've probably never taken a photo of a baby, but that's okay. You know, in our training, we're going to go through and tell you how to work that camera, how to do. So you sort of state what they're going to come up with as an objection, and then you attack it by putting a short little video out there, all little content to handle that.
I'm amazed how little franchise brands show the actual training online. We actually show a lot of our training online. We show lectures, we show clips from our lectures, we show training overviews, we show everything about the training, because I think we get a common thing where people leaving corporate to do this, something that's physical, they don't have the confidence about, can I do this skill or whatever. So we find it really effective when we actually just literally show the training online. So we have a 2-hour business lecture from someone, we'll cut up 10 shorts, put them online. It's a different type of content as well, because you're not selling a franchise, you're just sharing knowledge. So not only does it reach prospects, it actually helps bring people outside of what might even be considering your brand into your brand just by providing business content. And that's linked into training as well. So for me, when I was researching franchise and stuff, probably back in 2018, I could hardly ever find anything that actually showed you training. So for example, a QSR franchise, well, show us the operations, show us the training that's involved, show me some content from actually showing the person to do it, rather than saying, oh, you know, you need to take 6 months off and we're going to give you hands-on training with a couple of bullet points and that's it. So I find it very odd that brands don't show the actual training, which I think can be really powerful.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands think that's my IP, and I don't want to share that. But you're right. I mean, even something so simple like, what does a day in the life of a franchisee look like? And creating a short video. I've got brands that do a whole 1 hour of taking you from the beginning all the way through to the end. Yeah. And that sells because people then don't have that skill set to join it, and they go, what am I actually going to be doing? Am I going to be able to get out of my corporate job to be able to do this? So once again, sharing is caring. And the more you share, it is actually very powerful. And those who don't share or try to cut corners is where they start finding it challenging to be able to sell the franchise.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of day in the life videos. They're still one of the most effective videos for recruitment. And the great thing about day in the life, we do like an hour one, and you look at the watch time. Average watch time might be 14 minutes from like 1,900 people, which is fantastic. 1,900 people interested in your franchise, watching a bit of content from you for 14 minutes is something that most brands don't do. But the day in the life stuff, I think, is the most interesting bit of content that any brand QSR site-based mobile services can do. And it's proven with us anyway with the analytics, but I think it's a really good one you mentioned then. And
you know what? Don't be afraid to add that into your sales process.
So
without you realizing, you're sort of saying, hey, you know, you're going to ask me this question, but let me just send you a video of what does a day in the life of our franchisee looks like. Yep. So now you're not pushing them along to take the next step of your sales process. You're actually giving them enough to say, they tell you what's the next step. And that's the key. If you can get them to tell you what's the next step, you know, how do I get to the next step? You're doing a really good job, and you don't have to be a great salesperson to do that part.
And how do you get them to get over the cost of video? So I find the hardest thing is they see the cost of video and they get good videos, not, you know, it's decent enough, but I think they balk at some time. I don't see it as a cost. I see it as an investment, because that video you upload on your YouTube channel will get views in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 6 years' time, and still be marketing to franchisees in the background with the algo. How do you go over the cost of video with them to get all this stuff created?
Yeah, great question. I think, you know, getting a good camera, if you're starting off very simple, getting yourself a really good camera or a good microphone and a good lighting and an area where you feel comfortable producing the content, and just kind of mapping it out. And you can start by doing it yourself. These days, mobile phones can do really good videoing if you want to do it that way. But then when you get to the bigger sort of things, you want to sort of find someone to do it for you, or you find an expert. And I don't think that there's enough people out there doing video content. And if they do, they're charging into the thousands. And it's not as accessible as it should be. So I think we need more people doing that, because like I said, most of my brands go, where do I go to find that? Who do I do? Where do I go? And I just go, you know what, start small. Build it yourself, and then when you get to that stage where you need, I think an editor is where you probably need more help with editing.
Yeah, and you can find a lot of editors online, you know, online in the Philippines and things like that, do a great job, and Upwork and things like that. So once you get a good one, it's pretty affordable to consistently do it as well. But it's a lot cheaper than what it used to be now.
Well, I think I think if most people are sitting here listening to this, and I'll probably be one of them, I don't know where to go to find somebody that can help me create that. Because you need someone to put a strategy behind behind it, which these days ChatGPT and all these AI platforms can give you a good strategy and what videos and how to say and what to say. But it's finding the right people that you can align yourself with or work with to be able to record it and then split it out like, you do. So, having more of your services out there would be a lot useful for most franchisors.
Absolutely. I was going to say as well, with going back to when you were a franchisor, how did you support franchisees back in the day? Because that's really crucial. And I think it's something that's not talked about often, about how you actually do support and what is good support. So how did you support your franchisees back in the day?
Well, back in the days, there wasn't as much technology and stuff that there is these days, and people were scarce, to be able to do it. But I had to do it very manually, and it was a lot of time consuming for me, but it was important because if you don't support them, especially in the first 12 months, people drop off, so it's what do you actually put in place? And you've got to be, as a franchisor or the team you put in place, they've got to be able to coach and guide and mentor these franchisees. People come in here with no knowledge of how to run a business. You need to really get in there and start holding their hands, but putting together something that's going to be super powerful. And at the end of the day, they want to make money. So how do you quickly give them the results? If you can show them and get them results quicker rather than later, and then just have open channels to be able to come and communicate with you, because let's face it, most franchisors become very time poor. And when you have 10, 50, 20, 50, 100 franchisees, it's impossible for you to be able to spend so much time supporting them along the way. And then you might find other people to come in and do it for them, but those people just are there to tick a box and earn an income. They're not really there to really genuinely support them. They may be, but not everybody does, because they're just there to get their money and stuff. So support is a big one, and it's the biggest common challenge I get heard from a lot of franchisees saying that brand doesn't support me. But you really have to hone in on what does support mean for them?
Yeah, what does it mean? Exactly.
What does it mean? Like, where do you want the support? Be specific. Do you want support by creating lead flows? Is it because you want how to do something? But articulate what support is, and then build an infrastructure or build something that then helps them articulate that they have.
So what do you think mainly the franchisees want support? Is it just mainly like, obviously we want enough work to make money, so leads is always going to be one, not getting enough leads, or the leads are no quality, so it's always, I think, sort of going to be always the top of mind. But what else is there? Is it like, to be accessible on the phone quickly when they've got a question, or what else do you think from a support point of view?
Yeah, it's a good one, because I find that most people are very excited, and when they start and they buy this business, then they go into training, they leave and they're super excited. But where it drops is you're now in that crunch time of going out there and selling yourself, whether it's a service or a brand or whatever. They then lack motivation, they lack the confidence, and they feel like they're by themselves in their own business and they don't have that community. So building a community, touch points with them, and then holding them accountable. So same with like a franchise coach or a business coach, touch points with them. What's your challenges today? How can we overcome them? Get them to do small little things in the first 6 to 12, 90 days, 80 days, all that type of stuff, right? And then making sure that they actually do it, because they lack motivation, most of them. They lose that confidence. And then everything becomes too hard basket, and then they start questioning, why did I do this? Why did I invest in this money? Why did I leave my corporate job? Everything was so easy before. This is hard. And it is hard, like when you jump into a business you don't know, things are hard at the beginning until you get proficient into it. So it's really sticking by them for the first 12 months is very key. It's key.
Yeah, so that's something where you should, first 12 months as a franchisor, you're going, right, it might be daily calls, it could be weekly calls, or whatever you need to do. And then obviously get into the 12 months and hopefully it stabilizes a bit and they're confident, they're making money, they're happy. Then I guess you can sort of not lessen the support, but I guess back off a little bit in terms of how maybe proactive you are. Because I know in gyms what we do is we have our franchisors when they first start, franchisees get a mandatory proactive call every week. And then after that, the requirements drop after 6 months or something like that. But since we've done that, we find retention is definitely a lot better. And what else from a support point of view do you think is a must now from franchisors?
Yeah, but you don't want someone to just call and just say, hey, how you going? How's the day? How's the weather?
It needs to be valuable. Yeah, I should have that. It needs to be valuable, not just ticking a box, as franchisees know. Yeah.
The other thing is going out with them. Sometimes going out with them and doing the jobs with them, or going out and seeing some clients, helping them win some clients.
Yeah, yeah.
That's huge. It's not really like a lot of people don't really like doing that, because let's face it, most support people that are in a franchise brand, maybe they've never owned a business before, or they may not have the skill sets to actually deliver the actual, if it's a lawn mowing business or if it's making food or whatever it is, they probably don't have that actual skill set. But finding the right people that is going to, one, motivate them, two, get them business, and three, help them build a business that's solid as well, because they're all independently owned. That's where I find it lacks. There's not many support people out there that do it for the right reasons than just doing a job. And when you do find those key people, there's very few of them, and they get sort of headhunted to go to the other brand and the other brand and the other brand. They just circulate, and then they just get complacent. They sit down and they go, yeah, if I just make a phone call to you, it's going to be good enough. But people don't want you to just make a phone call. People want you to go out there and see that you're supporting them in the best way that they actually need. And everyone's different in what they need in terms of support.
You're right. And I've learned over the years, a lot of our franchisors, the better ones, will go out and like first week, I'm going to introduce you to the local real estate agents or something like that, or show you how to actually approach a commercial client in person, and they actually go and do that. I think that's a really good way to start the relationship, as opposed to just, the call for the tick box and how things going with no valuable advice at all. But I was going to say,
relationships, building really solid relationships and be approachable.
And I think that's the key for people buying into the brand as well. Like, prospects should actually, we have franchisors, but obviously other brands will have support people. Knowing who's actually going to be supporting you, I think, is a really crucial one. And do you get along with them? Because it's an important relationship. It could be a 10, 15, 20-year agreement or whatever it is. So you've got to make sure you get along with the person. I think that's a really important thing as well.
Yeah, I worked with a brand, I won't mention any names, but I worked with a particular brand that they didn't like who they got given as a account manager. Yeah. And that person just didn't want to listen to anything that was said and told and done. And so they struggled. They struggled really big until, I wasn't in that department, but I had to go in there and sort of say, what's going on? Like, your numbers are not looking great. You're now complaining that you want to sell. You've only just started and you've only just joined. And it was purely because they didn't get along with that support person that they got given. So I think also, if you are in that business where you've got a lot of support people, why don't you talk about your support people? Why don't you do little videos of, hey, this is going to be the New South Wales support person, or, the Queensland support person, or, this is who you're going to be working with, and making sure you meet the team. Meet the team is like a really good one as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of franchisor podcasts for that reason, and divisional podcasts, and we have that, and they're always really well consumed, because people want to know who actually runs the business and who they're investing with, and that's a really good piece of content. I think they should all do. But I was going to ask you as well, what are the biggest mistakes you've seen then over your years of experience with franchise businesses? You would have seen some things over the years. What are the biggest mistakes that some brands maybe scaling or growing do and don't get right?
I'm going to talk to you about my own, because I love to tell you my own stories, but I also will tell you what others have done. So it's scaling way too quickly and becoming a franchise when you shouldn't have never franchised that quickly. Not building great infrastructure at the beginning, and then when you brought your franchisees on board, you're changing your website to then support that growth.
Yep.
You know how hard it is to change a system once you've got franchisees on board, because they don't like changes. They want to buy into something that's been tested, trialed, and it works. So that was another one. And then why would you not implement the foundations that are going to work and going to scale with you as you grow? And why change it halfway through? So when you build a business from scratch and you then want a franchise, spend some time in actually building the foundations correctly, and be able to, whatever platform you're going to use, make sure you can scale when you grow franchisees. Don't think, oh, that'll do. That'll be the cheaper version, and then I can move into another infrastructure or CRM or whatever. People don't like changes. The other thing I've learned, and what I've seen people get caught out on, is not teaching them how to fish for work.
Yep.
And expecting you to be able to generate all the lead flows. So the amount of people that I've put into business and said, so how are you going to guarantee you're going to generate X amount of leads for me? You're buying yourself a business, not a job.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to teach you how to go out and fish for them and be able to feel comfortable that what you're training them in, they're going to be sufficient enough to go out and fish for that business.
And that comes from the process when you're actually selling it to them. Like, they need to be told that up front. I think we're really conscious of that, and we actually have a massive intranet where we have all these interviews with franchisees, how to upsell, how to do this and that. Best franchisees learn how to build their business doing this and stuff. And for that reason, we have a lot of content online up front where people say it's hard work. You've got to not rely on the gym system for all the leads. You've got to do your own bit. And we do that exactly for what you said, because that is a really bad issue for franchisors. When franchisee comes on board, expects 30 to 40 leads a month, might be 15 in a month when they struggle, blame the system, and then you have an unhappy person, and it just causes issues for franchisors or for head office.
Absolutely. But you can also be one of those systems that guarantees leads coming through their way. But if they can't convert, those leads are dead anyway. And the key here is you've got to teach them how to have a voice. And that's something you can't train them as much. They either have it or they don't have it. Do you have an ability to connect with people? Do you have ability to want to talk and speak about who you are, what you do, and what your business is all about? And secondly, do people like you? Because I don't care how good you are and what brand you bought. If I don't like you, I'm not going to buy with you. I'll jump ship and I'll go somewhere else. And then they ask the brand, they go to the franchisor and go, hang on a minute, that person's doing business with the other person that's next door to me, but that's my lead because it's in my area or whatever reason. And I just say to them, but you didn't do anything to retain that or build that relationship. So it really means that you've got to put that in your training modules and you really got to hone in on that because it's key to be able to succeed.
Absolutely. You've got to keep that in mind in your recruitment process. I've done thousands of interviews with franchisees over the years, and the ones who do well, they don't do anything really special. They're just really good people, great attitude, speak well, they smile. There's nothing brilliant they're doing. They're just really easy to get along with, and they all have really good businesses, literally based on their personality and nothing else. And I think that's the thing that, when you're doing your sales process, you should be always consciously thinking of that, because it just makes life a lot easier, makes for a happier franchisee, longer term franchisee. You might have to say no to a few sales due to it, but when you get that person, they might stay with you for 15, 10 years as opposed to someone dropping out after 12 months.
And look, I sold a business to a gentleman who was really introvert, and I thought, ooh, not a smile in the process of in my sales process. I'm thinking, oh, this guy might struggle a little bit. Yep. He's doing extremely well. Why? Because the training that was put in place for him to go out there and just build really solid relationships. You don't have to be a bubbly person. You don't, you can do a couple of smiles here and there, but if you do a good job, the follow-ups is spot on, and you're following the system that you've been taught. And don't go divert that. Don't go and reinvent the wheel. If you've been taught to do it this way and you think, no, my way is better, I guarantee you, because I've been there, done that, you change the model and you think you can do things better, then don't buy yourself a franchise because...
Yeah, do your own business. Yeah. Too entrepreneurial. Yeah, too entrepreneurial is always a big red flag for sure.
But I'm an entrepreneur and I actually did buy franchises. And if you ask me the question again, would I buy another franchise or would I start a business from scratch? I would buy another franchise. Yeah. And I'm an entrepreneur. And the reason being is because why the hell do I want to spend more money trying to figure things out? That person figured it out and I just have to pay him out and money and just follow the system. So it's not about that either. So yeah.
And what about I think there's a lot of distrust in franchise in Australia, just because I think it's always in the media. It always gets picked on. There's so many systems and there's going to be obviously so many franchise relationships will get strained. They run to the media and because it's a big brand or whatever, they always run it. So how do you think the industry can regain trust in the media? Because they're far more inclined to run negative stories than a successful franchisee who might own 3 stores and have all these, be really successful. So how can the industry start to rebuild trust?
First and foremost, we need to cut out these people that have got commission breath and are just selling it to anyone and everyone that's got a wallet and a pulse. That's key. Second thing is state the obvious. Like when you're selling a brand, you need to tell them, this is going to be hard yuckers. This is going to need you to do X, Y, Z. Stating what they need to do and holding them accountable, because it's not about them just giving you money and off you go, you're going to be successful. And also don't be afraid to say to that person, I appreciate Mr. or Mrs. Franchisee that you've got all the money in the world to give me to start this business, but I don't think you're going to be successful in my brand because you don't fit and align with me and what I've actually built. So don't be afraid to knock people back. They will appreciate you a lot better than just saying, yeah, you're a perfect fit. And you know that they're going to be a pain in the backside once they're in the business. I think a lot of people get scared and they just go, you know what, that person's got a brand. There's a lot of cowboys out there, cowgirls. There's a lot of those out there that just want to sell it to anyone. And that's then creating the bad banter because then you don't have a great solid infrastructure in place. You don't support them effectively because you haven't built that up. And then you don't proactively go and find out what their problem is, which is probably something so simple. And then you let that fester. And when they let that fester, they then go, okay, I'm going to take you to class action. And they do all this. And Australia is one of the biggest countries that want to sue everyone because they think you can make a quick buck in suing. Let me tell you, the only people that make money is the franchise lawyers. They like to bitter and cause lots of grief. So, just stating that, if you've got an issue, just come to us. Let's have a conversation. Let's fix it. So I think it's the mitigating of that and the expectation and the setting that clear from the beginning.
Absolutely. And one more question before I let you go. We've gone for more than an hour, so I know conscious of time, is the private equity and publicly funded franchising. I think a lot of people come in and they go, right, I want to start my franchise, my brand, my goals to be bought out by private equity in 10 years or 20 years, put on numbers to get a more attractive sale. Like even at conferences now that I go to, they have people talking about how to get private equity in your business, in your franchise business, right? So what's your thoughts on private equity and overseas private equity and publicly listed franchise-based systems compared to people choosing the founder one?
When you get to that stage of being bought out by a big company, you become a number, and franchisees get nervous. So in my opinion, I always like to keep it as you can have a family-owned business. And I'll give you an example. United Franchise Group, Ray Titus, family-owned business. They own 13 or 14 brands now, still family-owned. They still make decisions as a family, and they still feel like you are a part of their family. If they were to sell outside, which I know that a lot of big brands are doing it, you dilute that, and that person then doesn't have and doesn't create what they built when they started it. So I get a bit nervous when they start selling overseas, and I see the reason why they want to do that, because that's their exit strategy, but a franchisee does get nervous. So I think if you're going to do that, let them know, and don't be afraid to let them know, but also put things in place that nothing's going to change with the way our culture is and the way we've built this all this time. And if you can keep that, which I don't know if that can happen, but if you can keep that, that would be key.
I don't know if it does. I just think if you're a prospect now, and you should really know who owns this actual thing. Is it family owned or is it private equity or listed on the ASX, obviously, because you're not the priority, the shareholder return is, or their returns are, right?
Yep.
So and you become the actual way to make money for the franchise. And I think that's the bad thing. In our contracts, no one probably knows that. You don't probably know this, but in our franchise agreement, Jim actually recently changed it to say the company cannot be sold without written consent of the majority of the franchisees. His CFO was trying to talk him out, but he said, you're going to halve the value of your company overnight. He said, I don't care. I don't want some greedy multinational coming in after I'm gone who can then sell it. So we're very conscious of that. And I think it's going to be a really big selling point moving forward over the next 10 years, because you're going to see a lot of these private equity mobs who have bought out franchise brands, disgruntled franchisees, go to the media, and it's going to really, hopefully when a prospect looks at a system, they're actually going to ask who owns this thing. So I think that's really, really important, because I don't think prospects know, and I think that's never, ever told to them up front. But as you know and I know, that does matter. Who actually owns this thing? And I think that's going to become a really important thing, where a founder-led brand or a startup franchise brand will even have an advantage, even if they don't have the big brand awareness. They will have the advantage because it's privately owned and they're the family business. They own it. They're not private equity or the publicly listed thing where you're not the priority.
It's a good point you raised, actually, because it does get brought up in conversation when I'm selling franchises, is that they actually do say to me, is this family owned or is this? And I'm like, that's a good one. So if you can state the obvious once again and say,
you do have short form content around it, Susanna. It's very interesting to people because they don't think of that, but I think they should, because it's really, really important, because brands will just want to who get publicly listed, just want to expand with stores to obviously increase the share price, and they'll do it at any cost, or any ways.
Dilute it. Yeah,
diluted. Exactly right. So, and then performing stores are gone and performing franchisees are pushed out, and the cycle goes. But I was going to say as well, Susanna, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked you today that you might want to mention? So on your website, you've obviously got a lot of services available. Your group coaching, you've got one-on-one coaching. You can obviously help a franchise brand decide if they're ready to franchise, which I think is probably the most important thing anyone can do. Is there anything else you offer?
Yeah, so what I do is I look at your model, your business model before you franchise. So we go through a franchise validator program, which then goes through every single department of your business and make sure that you've got everything ready to scale if you were to choose to go down that path of franchising. So spending a bit of money and a bit of time to organize the structure of your business, key, before you go and spend the thousands of dollars going down the franchising, because once you're there, you can't get out. And then the other bit is, once you do franchise, I can actually help you sell and expand globally. So when you say globally, you're the person who owns it and you want to sell master agreements in New Zealand, etc. That's how I can help you do that as well. So that's what I do for people.
Yeah. So thanks today, Susanna, for your insights. I don't think there'll be anything like this on the net in Australia with franchising. And just thanks for your honesty as well. We appreciate it. So head to susanna.com.au to learn more about Susanna and her services, and just Susanna Hands on LinkedIn, and you can find her as the franchise lady. And thank you very much for your time today, Susanna. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joel. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks.